I've been doing a record label for since 1997 called Static Station. And maybe in 2005, it went from being my thing to kind of a collective effort. And kind of after a few years of the collective version of Static Station, I don't know, kind of wanted to do something that was going to be a little more thematic, or where that was a little bit more reflective of distinctly my tastes. Because there were a handful of bands happening that I was really into, that I was really interested in doing stuff for, but didn't really kind of fit with what Static Station was doing, or I just kind of wanted to have it be my own little umbrella again. So I kind of was like, okay, I don't know if these bands are going to tour. I don't know if these bands are going to be able to sell a bunch of stuff. What's something manageable that I can do and still kind of help the bands out a bit and get their music out there and stuff like that. And so Modern Tapes was born. It's one of the last formats that people who want the music, who are music lovers, who love the band or whatever, it's something that they'll go for. It's something that they'll want to acquire. We make our releases available digitally to people that are just like, oh, it's my friend's band, I just want the song, or like, oh, whatever, that kind of thing. But people that are really into having an object, I kind of wanted to make a cool object. A cassette is kind of like, okay, do it by hand, you know? Like the jackets that I do, like I spray paint them and letterpress them and stuff like that. And we have one that we're going to be doing where we're gonna hand paint every one, stuff like that. And so that kind of thing is fun to me, you know. And so I prefer to do that, you know. And so if I'm gonna put out a record or a recording in a manageable medium, why not do it on cassette?
No.
A big part of the manufacturing process of these tapes has a lot to do with the fact that I didn't know anything about letterpressing other than it looked good for a long time. Then a friend of ours basically needed a place to store a small press, and so our apartment became storage for that. And then my partner Jesse, who's kind of knows how to do everything and knows how to make everything really good when she does it, taught me how to letterpress stuff. And then all of a sudden it just kind of opened up a lot of things where it's like, oh, this is a lot easier than you know, the mystique around it lends one to believe. Granted, I'm not the best at it, and you know, some of the prints on different tape cases kind of reflect that. But I think it's a pretty important thing for me to be a part of, like, physically putting everything together and making everything happen. So that's, yeah, because it's the whole homemade thing. Basically, I have these cardboard mailers that I just bought a ton of, because years and years ago, like back in the late 90s, I did a couple tapes, and then like a friend of mine, like she would write songs on accordion, and she had like a drum machine and an accordion. She would write songs, and then she would send them to me in these little mailer things, and like we'd you know, send tapes back and forth. I had this really bad drum machine and like Casio project thing that I would write ridiculous songs and send to her, and she would send to me and stuff like that. But we had these little cases, and we would just, each time we would try and one up the other person with the way that we adorned them. So yeah, cardboard and whatever I want to put on them, because cassettes are plastic enough. You know, there's a lot of plastic involved in a cassette, and I'm trying to steer away from. It's one of the things I don't like about CDRs, is that they're just hunks of plastic. At least with cassettes, you can keep reusing them if you get over what's on them, or if you don't like what's on them, someone gives it to you as a present, you don't want it. Like, oh, great. Well, at least now I have, I mean, how many times did that happen to me in high school or something like that? Someone would give me a mixtape and be like, oh, great, Hootie and the Blowfish. Cool, and then something else goes on it. For the most part, I do them myself. Like I have a relatively above adequate quality cassette deck, and I'll master the stuff on my computer using various softwares, and basically put as high quality of a sound onto each tape as possible. There have been cassette labels since the dawn of the cassette. Like home taping used to be destroying the record industry. That was the big deal. Like, home taping is destroying the record industry, and I was like, wow, I'm hearing all this new music because of home taping. It's the same. It's kind of like a file sharing thing. Like, everyone was freaking out about that. I don't think it's gonna. It might be kind of a temporary thing, especially with the kind of ubiquitousness of the lo-fi aesthetic these days. It kind of plays into that. But at the same time, I think there's always going to be people that are looking for inexpensive ways to do small numbers of less than mainstream recordings, and to get them out to people as quickly as possible. And people are always going to have cassette decks, and with a lot of people there's nostalgia to it. For me, maybe there's a shred of nostalgia to it, because that's what my bands in high school used to do. We used to sit in my bedroom and dub tapes before our shows, and so there's a little bit of that urgency to it, but I don't know. Great sentence.
I think it is.